Alrighty. Is this thing on? Oh, that's just my big voice. How's everyone going tonight? Good? Excellent. All right, let's begin. Thanks so much for coming out. And it's really good to be invited back again. I did this one in 2015, I believe. My name's Tim Oliver. I'm going to be talking about tech in Japan. I'm going to be talking mainly about my perspective as a software engineer, but hopefully I'm trying to keep it as generic enough that I can kind of like put out some information that's generic enough that everyone can go through and use it. So about me really quickly. When I'm not bumming around Shinjuku singing the Pokemon theme song at random karaoke bars, I am the Kaiwa representative for JETAAWA. So I run a fortnightly event called Kaiwa, which is a Japanese-English conversation event every second Thursday at 43 Below. And I definitely recommend you should come down if you want to practice Japanese or ask any questions. I graduated from ECU with a Bachelor of Science in Digital Media, which is it was kind of like an interesting degree where it was like jack of all trades, master of none in terms of computer science and multimedia. So it was like graphics and code at the same time. Straight out of university, I worked as a web developer for a few years, and then when the iPhone came out and all mobile software became a thing, I became a full-time iOS engineer in 2013. So like the program says, I got interested in Japan a while ago because my dad got a job there, so we got uprooted and moved there for a little bit. We had a fantastic time. We gaijin smashed everything in our site. It was really, really good, and we loved it, so we kept going back ever since. In 2013, I got a job at a company called Pixiv. Has anyone heard of Pixiv before? Few people? Hey, cool, excellent. So for those who don't know what Pixiv is, I guess the easiest way to describe it is Japanese deviant art. It's a website, you can upload your artwork, your paintings, your sketches, your comics, and people can follow you, comment on it, and it's gotten really big. Like they just had their 10-year anniversary last weekend, which they live streamed right up until the nomikai, which they had to cut for, I'm guessing, for reasons. Anyway, so back in 2013, I was working on the Pixiv iOS app. That was the iPhone 5 era, so it was a bit different. It looks a bit different now. And I was one of the team that was converting that to iPad. The office still is kind of crazy. It's one long table, absolutely cray-cray. But that's the kind of company it is. It's a very, very unorthodox company. It was really good fun to work there. And yeah, no, I had a fantastic time there. I had a great team. A couple of friends from Perth came over. We played. We had like a couple of Japanese like boat parties, and I bought an Xbox and played Halo on the weekends. It was really, really good. And so after finishing that up and coming back to Perth, I'm now working for a company called Realm. Realm is a Silicon Valley company, so I work remotely here, but it's in San Francisco, where we are building an embedded database so people can take our technology and put it into their apps. And we have a presence in Japan. My VP of product thought it was a good idea to have a Japanese presence there, which is really good because a few of these really non-trivial Japanese companies have adopted our technology. I didn't even know Nintendo adopted us till I found our logo in one of the Switch apps. And I was like, whoa, what? So that was excellent. And because of that relation with Japan, I've had some opportunities to actually go to Japan in an official capacity. Last year, I went to a Japanese tech conference and presented on the iPhone core animation technologies in Japanese. And that was absolutely terrifying, especially when the translator was like going, I don't know what language that is. But no, it was really fantastic. The tech scene in Japan is really good at the moment. This is the same conference, but this is a photo from this year. It got even bigger after last year's one, which is really good. Every person in that room, or the vast majority, are iOS engineers working for various Japanese companies. So the takeoff in tech is huge. Most of them were startups, which is amazing. And a really important thing is they're really on the lookout for international talent because there's tons of Japanese engineers in Japan, but a lot of companies want to get an edge. And they actually want to get a foothold in the international market. So a lot of them are interested in getting international talent because they can actually offer different perspectives from what's normal in Japan, and that's really, really useful for companies. On the flip side, there's other companies. One that comes to mind is Google, where they have a presence in Japan, but they don't know how to adapt their Western product for the Japanese market. So they have a presence in Japan, and they actually have international and Japanese employees working on ways to streamline the technology and the design to make it a lot nicer. Google comes to mind because apparently they're getting their butts kicked by Apple there at the moment. So they actually have a dedicated team trying to refactor the Google Play Store to make it more appealing to Japanese people, which is funny. So this is a really generic kind of slide with kind of a TLDR. When you want to go work in tech in Japan, what do you need? There's a lot of things you can have, which is nice to have. I don't have any of those. The main thing is you need a university degree. So the first step to actually getting a job in Japan is for the visa, you need to have a university degree. So the first step is to go to university. We're in a university, so we're already there, which is good right now. Anyway, but yeah, so that's the main thing. But for all the tech, when I applied to Pixiv and when I've been checking out other tech jobs recently, one thing that always comes to mind is you need to have a portfolio of your work. So software engineering and IT is a very practical sort of thing. You have concrete outputs, like stuff you've done in the past, and actual concrete solutions. So this is the sort of thing that is very easy to actually keep, and then when you're actually looking for a job, you can say, here's the stuff I've done in the past, this is the quality of my work. So it's always very, very good to actually build up a portfolio. I use GitHub for my code, and I use Dribble for my graphics design work, and these are really good things, so you can just stick them in your resume and then pass them along. And I've actually got contacted by a Google recruiter at one point who found my GitHub account. So giant companies are just watching these, and it's really, really good to get out there. Beyond that, probably the biggest way I can recommend looking to get a job in tech in Japan is to just do networking. It's maybe it's a dirty word, or maybe it's this very generic solution, but it really works, trust me. So I went to a few meetups in Japan last year. There was Hacker News Tokyo, which happened in Roppongi. There was the Tokyo iOS meetup, which happened in Shibuya. And there was a Realm meetup that happened next to Ueno Koen, but I can't remember where the building was exactly. But basically the crux of it is we're in this really great kind of like renaissance now where there's so many meetups. There's a meetup every evening about any tech you want to do. And you can go there, meet people from various companies. Most of these meetup events will have a section where people get up and say like, hey, I'm from a company, we're recruiting now. If you're interested, please come talk to me. We can probably work something out. So one thing, that's the main thing I can recommend is just check out those websites, Doorkeeper, Meetup, and Compass, and go to those events. Problem is those events are in Japan for the most part, not here. So getting to Japan is a bit of a challenge. So for certain ways you can do that is you can, if you've got the money, but the problem is it's kind of expensive because you can't make money when you're over in Japan. You can go there on a tourist visa and just go around to some meetups, check out what the job scene is like there. A great little segue into plugging my own organization. You can do the JET program, which is a really good way that if you've never been to Japan before, you can go there and actually learn how the culture is. You can get grounded in it, and then when you've completed the JET program, you've got enough like an anchor there, so you can actually go around and start looking at other opportunities. Or one thing, if you're under 30, you can look at the working holiday visa. You don't even need a degree for this one. So this is for eligible people to go there. I don't think you can do full-time work on the working holiday visa, but you can go there and spend enough time in Japan. You can start looking at jobs, maybe do part-time internships or part-time jobs, and yeah, pretty much that's a really good way to get in there. Alrighty, home run. Okay, so Japanese ability. Do you actually need to know Japanese to work in Japan? It helps, but for the most part, it doesn't really matter. So pixiv, not many people spoke English, but enough people spoke English that there was a few other colleagues who didn't speak Japanese and they got by completely fine. It's not a problem for most roles, but some companies might demand it. Like I know companies like Nintendo have like a JLPT N2 requirement and things like that. But at the same time, when you live in Japan, outside the company, you should probably know Japanese just to get by in daily life. So I always recommend you should, and you don't learn it by osmosis when you're over there. You should definitely take the effort to learn it. And the great thing is there's tons and tons of like Japanese kaiwas, which is a completely redundant term. There's lots of like language events over there as well. And there's also schools, which is really, really useful. And finally, just if you're in Perth and just want to see what the scene is out there, it's a really textbook answer, but just send your resume to all the things. Websites like Stack Overflow, GitHub, and even LinkedIn, a lot of companies are on LinkedIn, all have sections listing jobs, and a lot of them are in Japan. So I've seen lots of Japanese jobs at Stack Overflow, and they'll actually offer if they do visa sponsorship as well, which is really, really useful because you can start looking at jobs that you could start getting set up straight away. And like I would say, don't undersell LinkedIn because I've been contacted by recruiters from Apple, Facebook, and Google on LinkedIn. So the giant companies are there and looking for talent there. So always make sure you have a LinkedIn presence because that's a really good resource. Anyway, that's my talk. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Tim?
Yes.
As a Westerner who's working in Japan and you're currently working here in a Western country,
Yep.
how much of a culture difference is there between what you experience as a developer in Japan and as a developer here?
That's a tricky question. I guess, well, for the most part, it's not actually that different. I guess the main thing is it depends on your coworkers. I had some pretty quiet coworkers who would keep their own devices, but for the most part, we followed the same processes. It was a very Scrum-based sort of development process, which is the same here. So for the most part, apart from the language difference, it wasn't that different. I mean, in terms of IT, like Japan, like everything's kind of like modeled around. Everyone does the same sort of methodology. So for the most part, it wasn't that different, apart from the language.
Can I sort of build on that question a
Sure.
little bit? That office that you showed looked very unconventional.
That's true. It was.
It
Yeah.
does not fit at all with my experience of a business setting of Japanese.
Well, before I actually joined the company, just before they did that, and before it was just tables next to each other in an open office. So.
Oh, you brought a desk with you?
No. Yeah, actually, no. Just after I joined, they're like, we're going to throw this all out and do something crazy. I'm like, uh-oh, but yeah.
But I'm curious, was it ever, is problematic the term, trying to interface with other companies who maybe had one of the more sort of formal business settings?
So I've only worked at pixiv at the moment, so I can't say for sure, but I've heard that it really depends on the company. Some really young companies are really modern, so they'll do that sort of thing. But if you go for a more traditional company, apparently Rakuten is a good example because it's a very old and traditional company. You would have that very old school Japanese sort of work mentality.
Okay, anyone else?
Cool. Is it food time now? Okay.
Time as well.
Yay.
Also available to answer questions, but thank you, Tim.
Thank you so much.